Welcome to the MOOC course on Public Financial Administration, and today we are going to discuss about the topic recommendations of the Finance Commission of India. That you know that Indian federalism is a unique one, and already we have seen some of the special features of the Indian federalism. And if you look into the Indian federalism, you can see that few important special features surpass other federal systems in the world. One is centrally oriented constitution that we have seen already. It's centralizing features are there in the Indian constitution. Then supremacy of the union legislature power over the states provided in the constitution. Then union control over the state legislature, that is also there. So there is a lot of emergency provisions have been provided. Then emergency provisions have been there, particularly financial emergency, and president can impose emergency under the Article 356 and so on. And then restriction on taxation powers of the states, then restriction on borrowing powers of the states, then president rule as per the Article 356, and then sharing of the central taxes. These are all some of these very important features, special features, which is not being there in various federations in the world. As per the Constitution 88th Amendment Act 2003, sharing of taxes between the union and the states has been provided. And you can see that there are four types of sharing is being done. One is duties levied by the union but collected and appropriated by the states under the Article 268. Duties of the excise on medicinal and toilet preparations containing alcohol, and stamp duties on bills of exchange, etc. NT 84 and 91 of the list 1. Then service tax levied by the union and collected and appropriated by the union and the states, Article 268A. And then taxes levied and collected by the union but assigned to the states under Article 269, sale or purchase of goods other than newspapers where such a sale or purchase takes place in a course of interstate trade. Then taxes levied and distributed between union and the states, Article 270, all taxes and duties referred to in the union list shall be levied and collected by the government of India and shall be distributed between union and the states. These are all some of the very important developments, particularly in the year after the 88th Amendment Act was passed by the Indian Parliament in 2003. Now, if you look into the mechanism of central transfers to the states, there are three ways that transfer of funds and finance resources have been transferred to the states. One is centralization of revenues and need for transfers, particularly why we need to have transfers from the union government to states. One is basically we have already seen that the centralization of revenues, the revenue structure itself, revenue system itself, taxation structure itself is more centralized in India. So there is a need for something remedy have to be done, particularly when the states are in divide of funds. Second is emergence of imbalance between different tiers of government is the characteristic feature of many federations. It is not only in India, because people may think that argue that only in India it is a social feature. Actually, this in all federations, Canada or in United States or in other federations, you find that these imbalances among the different states that are prevailing within the federation, that is also matter for or issue for consideration. The third is hence the Constitution of India provides various provisions to settle the problems of imbalance between different layers of government in a federal polity. So, channels of transfers to the states from center. One is statutory transfers from Finance Commission. Second is planned transfers through Planning Commission, which is now replaced with the Niti Aayog. Niti Aayog is not actually doing the same function of the Planning Commission, because Planning Commission was created by an executive order by the Government of India in 1950, basically to plan and implement various programs for socio-economic development, particularly Article 282, which provides for this provision of discretionary funds, which has been under the Parliament, which have been actually entrusted to the Planning Commission. Now it has been replaced with a new institution called Niti Aayog, National Institution for Transforming India. That is a very important development that has taken place. And thirdly, discretionary transfers of centrally sponsored schemes, relief from natural calamities, and then relief and rehabilitation of displaced persons. So these are all main transfer. These are the ways that transfer of funds is being taking place from union to states. Then apart from this, there is an establishment and expansion of central public sector enterprises. This is very important aspect, because wherever central public sector enterprises are established, there is a possibility of increasing employment opportunity for millions and millions of people. That's what we call backward effect of any location of central public sector enterprises. And secondly, subsidized lending by banking and financial institutions. This is another thing. If the government of India facilitates subsidized banking sector for various purposes to the states as well as to the individuals, then there is also a possibility of transfer. Then third importantly, subsidized borrowing by states from the central government and banking system. For example, when states are borrowing from central government, that's what is possible in Indian context. When the states are borrowing it, they are not providing the central government with the higher taxation. It's all very soft loan or soft type of loans have been required. So to set right, but despite all these provisions, there is a problem of what you call fiscal imbalance, which is already stated, that the states are entrusted with more responsibilities and union government is provided with more than enough financial resources. So now this mismatch between this service responsibility and the financial resources of the states that make dependent on union government for its existence, even to fulfill their obligatory functions. So to set right this particular imbalances, not only between union and the state, but also among the states and the states vice versa. So Article 280 of the Constitution of India provides that the President of India shall appoint every 5 years or earlier, if necessary, the Finance Commission consisting of a chairman and 4 other members of recommended to the President. And then the principles of distribution between union and the states, and the proceeds of taxes and the allocation among the states of shares of such proceeds. And the Constitution also says that the qualification of a chairman and the members of the Finance Commission is prescribed as persons of eminence and experience in public affairs. So if you look into the various commissions appointed so far till today, since inauguration of the Constitution in 1950, you see the first Finance Commission was appointed in 1951. The chairman was K.C. Nayogi, and then second was 1956, where the K. Sandhanam was chairman. Then third in 1960, fourth in 1964, fifth in 1968, sixth in 1972, seventh in 1977, eighth in 1982, ninth in 1987, 10th in 1992, 11th in 1998, and then 12th in 2002, 13th in 2007, 14th 1992, and then 14th 2013 Y.V. Reddy, then 15th 2017 N.K. Singh. The task of the Finance Commission is, there are 4 important tasks that have been entrusted to the Finance Commission. One is forecasting resources and expenditure of the central government to determine the volume of resources to be transferred to the states ensuing the ensuing 5 years, because this is very important that the financial strength of the union government should be very good, so that they can transfer resources, because if the union government itself is devoid of funds, that is very difficult for them to transfer the funds. So that is why they, first of all, they have to forecast the resources and the expenditure of central government, particularly determine whether what kind of resources they are having. Second is forecasting own current revenues of the states and non-planned current expenditure. So this current revenues expenditure means governmental expenditures can be classified into 2 normally. One is the revenue accounts or revenue expenditures, another one is capital expenditures. Revenue expenditures are normally the maintenance of the government. Maintenance or the current expenditures is called maintenance expenditures, and developmental expenditures is called capital expenditures. So here, first of all, second important function of the Finance Commission is forecasting the own current revenues. That means, first of all, for functioning of the government, what are the revenues that is required, whether the states have the adequate revenue to fulfill their obligatory functions or committed expenditures. And third important function of the Finance Commission is devising formula for distribution of states share among the states themselves. That is, once you decide about central government has decided or union government has decided this much percentage of taxes should be shared, then among the states how it has to be shared, that, and the Finance Commission is supposed to propose a formula. For example, you have D.R. Godgill formula, who was the chairman of the Planning Commission. So there is a very famously called D.R. Godgill formula. We will be looking into this in coming slides. So the devising the formula for distribution of state share among the states themselves, and then filling up the post devolution projected gaps with the grants between non-planned current expenditures and current revenues. This is another thing is there is a word non-planned expenditures is coming, that is basically the expenditures are classified into planned expenditure and non-planned expenditures. Planned expenditures mean those expenditures of the state government which form the part of the 5-year plan, and non-planned means which is not part of the 5-year plan. Normally what happens, now there is a financial experts always blame the states that the states are incurring so much of non-planned expenditures by giving them freebies and so on and so forth. That is the reason that there is a lot of debt is being raised by the states, basically because the debt of the states are raising basically because of the increase in non-planned expenditures. So the Finance Commission also look into the post-devolution. That means once the award is being given from the Finance Commission, after going through and making these awards and all, awards of the transfers, then again some states may need some special care. For example, some states like Bihar or some other backward states, most backward states, they need something. So there are 4 important functions of the have been entrusted to the Finance Commission, task have been function. Then for example, recommendations of the Finance Commission. The first Finance Commission was constituted by an order of the President of India on November 22nd, 1951. K.C. Noyogi was his chairman, and 4 other members, namely Sri V.P. Menon, Justice R.K. Rao, then Dr. B.K. Madan, and then Sri M.V. Rangachari, who is a member secretary. And so far 15 finance commissions have been appointed by the President of India. And in this section we will discuss recommendations of the Finance Commission in little bit detail. The first Finance Commission, which was appointed in 1951, the main recommendations of the Commission was that the state share in income tax was fixed at 55%. Then basis of the distribution of among the states share in the income tax interest on the basis of the population 80%, on the contributions by the states 20%, and other factors nil. You should understand what is the meaning of this contributions. Contribution means suppose income tax is collected by the union government and then is being shared with the states. But what happened, the income tax is not collected uniformly in all the states by the union government, because in some states where the activity is more, where the income is more, where the personal income is more, where there is a potential for personal income is more, there will be a more income tax. For example, 50 to 60% of the income tax is collected from the 4 important cities in India. That is Madras, Chennai, Bombay or Mumbai, Kolkata, and then Delhi. These are the 4 places, 4 metros. Nearly 60% of the income tax is collected in the whole country. So rest of the countries is being contributing only 40% of the income tax. So this is what Finance Commission make a point, that on the basis of the contribution 20% should be given. Though weightage should be given, because those states which are contributing more, they should be given some kind of a weightage. Then on the basis of the population is 80%. Then other factors are not taken into account here. Then state share in union excise. There are 2 taxes are mainly shared in the first Finance Commission. One is recommendation was for the income tax. Income tax should be shared. And second is the excise duty, union excise duty. And this is basically, it is being fixed 40% from the 3 commodities. And this basis of distribution of share in the union excise duties is that population is 100%. Based on the population alone, the consideration being given. The other factors have not been taken into account. Then the second Finance Commission, if you could read, is being appointed in 1956, and then main recommendations were basically the state share in income tax was fixed at 60%. Last year is 45%, now it is 50%. Then basis of distribution is a population 90%, contribution 90%. So there is no change in this particular formula. And then state share in the union excise duty is 20% from 8 commodities. Last first Finance Commission, it recommended only for 3 commodities, where it is 8 commodities. More commodities were added. Then the basis of distribution is that the population 90% and the other factors, including the distance method and the various other collection method and all that, because I told you about the collection, because the collection is very important. Where you collect more funds, then you have to give them some kind of a weightage. That was a principle that is being followed by the Finance Commission. And third Finance Commission, it was appointed in 1960, and main recommendations of the Commission is the state share in income tax was 60%. You see that there is a gradual rise in the percentage of taxes, income tax share of it from the income tax, 66%. Then the basis of contribution is population 80%. Previously it was 90%, now it is 80%. Then contribution 20%. You know that population, why we insist on population, the reason is you have to be very clear. Because in the early period, 1960s and 70s, that was Government of India was focusing more on family planning drive. So in the family planning drive, some states performed well, some states did not perform well. So those states who are performing well, they are vigorously follow this principle of family planning. That is why the population constitutes a very important thing. Then state share in union excess duty is 20% from 25 commodities. You see the number of commodities also increased for the union excess duties. Then the basis of the distribution is base is population, a major factor, other factors, weightage not stated. So the major factor is other factors. Other factors means it is not only population has been taken into account, it is basically for excess duty. Weightage is other factors have been taken into account, but it is not weightage is not there because the various reasons for it. Then fourth Finance Commission appointed in 1964. The main recommendations of the commission were state share in income tax fixed at 75%. You see that there is an increase from 66% in third Finance Commission to the 75% in fourth Finance Commission. Then basis of the distribution among the states is the population basis or basis of population is 80% and the contribution to the income tax 20%. Then other factors not been taken into account. Whereas union excess duties, it is being fixed at 20%, where the population is 80% is being taken, and then other factors are not been taken. The reason why the 20% is left free, we don't know exactly. The fifth Finance Commission appointed in 1968, the main recommendations of the commissions were state share in income tax fixed at 75%, basis of the distribution of among the states, share income tax interest is population 90%, contribution 10% and other factors nil, and with regard to the union excess duties, it was fixed at 20%. So basis of the distribution among the states is population 80% and other factors nil. You see 6th Finance Commission 1972. When we read this 6th Finance Commission, 4th Finance Commission and so on, most of these years you find India was facing many war crises, particularly with Chinese aggression in 1960s and then 1972 Indo-Pak War, Second War. No, all these things constitute, I mean it's all pushed to the background, but we didn't discuss it. But these are all background in which government has to be run. That is why you see the Finance Commission also very sensitive to this kind of developments. So the 6th Finance Commission was appointed in 1972. In the state share income tax is fixed as 80%. The basis of distribution of state share in income tax is population 90%, contribution 10% and other factors nil. So state share in union excess duty is fixed at 20%. Then basis of the population is 75% and other factors 25%. There is a slight change in the approach of the Finance Commission, basically because of the various factors I was talking about during that period. Then 7th Finance Commission is basically appointed in 1977. The main contribution is commission where the state share in income tax fixed at 80%. You see that it is a period when Janata Party came to power, and then some liberal point of view with regard to the states or regional parties, they are very more elaborate or more liberal in giving this income tax. So they said the 85% of the income tax should be shared with the states. Then the basis of the contribution is population 90% and contribution is 10%. Then union excess state share in union excess duties is fixed at 40%. Basis of the distribution is population 28% and other factors 70%. You see the change. Last Finance Commission it was 75% on the population and other factors 28%. Here just opposite, 28% on the population and other factors 78%. Then the 8th Finance Commission appointed in 1982. The main recommendations: the state share in income tax is fixed at 85%, and then the basis is here. You can see the there is a sharp change in the entire approach of the Finance Commission. You see the population, based on the population is that 22%, 22.5%. It is actually the meaning of population is that which state has a more population, they will be given more or allocation will be more. and where the population is less, the allocation will be less. This is a very simple logic that is being followed by the Finance Commission. And here population has not been taken very seriously, 22.5%, and contribution 10%, and other factors for 67.5%. Because during this period there is the central government has went in for the various populist programs like Garibi Hatao. Garibi Hatao means remove poverty campaigns and so on. It's a very different kind of a move that is there. You can see it's all reflected. Governmental policies are reflected in the Finance Commission recommendations also. Then the state share in union excess duties is fixed at 45%, and the basis of distribution of state share in union excess duties are population 28%, other factors 78%. See, this is a kind of a very important development that has taken place during this recommendations of the Finance Commission. The 9th Finance Commission, 1987, that you know that they are all little bit very crisis period, particularly the financial crunch. There was an international economic recession and so on. So India also has to face this particular challenge. In that backdrop, the 9th Finance Commission given its recommendations. So the main findings of the Commission were a separate report was submitted in July for the year 1989-90, because you know 89-90 is a place where time where the India faced a severe financial crunch, because the foreign exchange reserves for the India stand only for 1 week. So the India has to pledge its gold with the Bank of England, and that is how basically the government of India introduced this new economic policy in 1991, which we will be discussing later in our discussion. Then state share in income tax fixed at 88%. Then basis of the distribution of state share in income tax inter-se, basis of the population 22.5%, contribution 10%, and other factors 67.5%. This is a very drastic move on the part of the government as well as the Finance Commission, because Finance Commission reflects the very mood of the particular point of view. Then state share in union excess duty is fixed at 48%. Then the basis of distribution of states share in union excess duties inter-se is population 29.94% and other factors 70.06%. Now this is a kind of you can see when you read chronologically the recommendations of the Finance Commission, you can see there is a sea change in the approach of the Finance Commission, basically reflecting the political and the economic situation of the country. Then 10th Finance Commission 1992 is a place where it is what you call when government of India adapted what you call the new economic policy, new industrial policy, and then globalization, liberalization, privatization, very famously that. So in that backdrop, the 10th Finance Commission has recommended its recommendations. So the main recommendation it reflects in the recommendations also. The state share in income tax fixed at 77.5%. Then basis of distribution of state share in income tax inter-se, population 20%. So population is not nowhere criteria, and then contribution nil. So contribution is not taken again for anything. Then other factors 80%. You see that this is a sea change in the approach of the Finance Commission, because it reflects the government of India's approach to the economy and its own adoption of these globalization, liberalization policies. Then state share in the union excess duty is fixed at 47.5%. Then basis of distribution of state share in union excess duties inter-se, population basis is for 20% and other factors 80%. There is another thing, a very important thing you have to understand is that from first Finance Commission to 10th Finance Commission, almost most of these Finance Commissions were all appointed by President of India for the purpose of 4 tasks which we have discussed. Thank you.